confusing too.
Okay.
Okay, so women and girls are kidnapped often by the promise of a better life or a job, and they're taken to China. Once they realize they're in China, that's usually the moment they realize they've been kidnapped and trafficked, because they all know that this is happening. So they're taken somewhere by someone they trust, like usually it's a classmate or like an older woman, a neighbor.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're in China, and like I read multiple like testimonies and watched interviews and stuff, and usually they're like, I was tricked. Like they know right away
soon as they
once they realize they're in China. Sometimes women and teens are tricked by someone they know. So this is an example of a girl, a very short side story. Her name's Jiang, and she was 16. She had a male classmate and friend. He told her there was a big event at a market, and they used to hang out a lot. And he was like, hey, there's this event at this market. Do you want to go? And she was like, yeah, totally. So they went. They had a good time. They had like ice cream or something. And then they left. And she said that he must have drugged her because she realized she was in China before she knew it. And she was told she was going to marry a Chinese man. If she said no, they'd harvest her organs. So reluctantly, she submitted. She actually didn't say yes. She just kept crying, and her submission was taken as yes. However, just 5 days later, so she was only missing for 5 days, a Vietnamese stranger saw what was happening somehow and saved her by buying her or paying a ransom. So he's like, what, she's $1,500? I'll buy her to be my wife or whatever. But he was just like...
Yeah, I'll give you $3,000.
Yeah. So he sold his motorcycle to buy her. He bought her. He took her back to the border. And then she called her parents, and they had to pay him to buy her back. So he was almost like doing still a shitty thing for profit, but the opposite, saving someone, but still getting the profit.
Yeah.
So you feel better about that, but still
like,
bad.
Shit, man. Fucking do a good thing to do a good thing.
I know. And then Jiang, I watched this interview with her, and she was like getting upset, and she's like, I feel so guilty. I let my family down, blah, blah. I trusted. I'm like, no, it's not your fault. So many girls can be purchased back by families paying ransom, but most aren't that lucky.
Yeah.
So back to Van. The 4 girls were woke up in the room, and they were told they had to marry. Tan suggested that they all marry an older man, like 70 to 80 years old. So she's like, this will be better because they're old and they'll die and blah, blah. So Van was like, essentially said, ew, no. Like, that's my grandpa's age. That's disgusting. I'm not doing it. I'm 16 years old, so no. And as a punishment, she was beaten. And then she was forced to kneel on thorns until her knees bled. And the other girls saw this because she was the first one to be like, hell no. 'Cause she was really outgoing. And so the other girls were so afraid that they agreed. So they all got married off to older men. But Van was like, she's like, I'm not marrying no one. Like, it's not happening. I'm not doing it. Even though she kept getting beaten and stuff. So a few days later, the kidnappers introduced Van to a 70-year-old man. They presented her with 2 bowls. One bowl had rice. The other bowl had feces. They told her that if she agreed to marry the man, she was allowed to eat the rice because she was very hungry. But if she decided no, she was not going to marry the man, she had to eat the other bowl.
Oh, my God.
And so she literally just ate the other bowl. She stood her ground. I was like, whoa, I would not have done that. She was like, yeah, I'm going to eat feces then because I'm not marrying anyone. So I'm like, wow, more power to you.
Damn.
Yeah. So the next day, a variety of men were brought to her, and one was finally younger. He was like 40, and she's still 16. But she finally was so tired of being beaten, and she was afraid of more severe punishments. They told her they would cut out her Achilles tendons if she said no again. So she was like, okay, well, he's 40, and I don't want my tendons cut out because then you can't walk.
Yeah.
So she was like, I'll do it. So she finally agreed.
She went through fucking hell.
They blindfolded her, and they took her on a car ride that was 16 hours long. So that's like going from like Central Oregon to LA, like almost all the way down the West Coast, or at least
it's
halfway.
like going from one city in Alaska to another.
It's like going to my neighboring city in Alaska. So when she got out of the car, she saw that they were in a very rural area. She eventually learned that she had been taken to Guangdong, which is in... I knew you would be Guangdong.
I tried not to laugh at dong, but...
It's funny. And that's on the southern coast of China. So she was repeatedly raped in her quote-unquote relationship, as most women trafficked are in this situation. And a year later, she had a baby when she was 17. Van tried to escape multiple times. She first told her husband, which I'm going to pause because all the articles said husband and married and couple, but I feel like those words just kind of trick our brains into thinking this isn't as extreme and bad as it. It's not her husband.
No, he's her captor.
Yeah. No, he's the abuser rapist, which I put abuser rapist.
Yeah.
So her forced husband, abuser rapist captor, allowed her to get a job as a construction assistant. She kept saying she was so bored.
Thanks, master.
Thank you, master, for letting me work. So 2 times she tried to escape while at work, but both times she was caught and her abuser beat her excessively. She tried a third time. When she tried the third time he caught her, he put her in chains and locked her in a room for 2 weeks that she could not leave. Years went by. 1 year, then 2, then 3, then 5, then 10, 15 years. 20 years went by. Van met...
So now she has a grown adult as a child.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of sad because she does get out of this situation. I don't know what happened with her kid. She didn't bring her with her. Or I don't even know if it was a girl or a boy. I couldn't find it. There wasn't a ton of information. It took a ton of digging to find this. So Van met a Vietnamese woman who drove a truck for a farm down the road. And she befriended this woman, and she told the woman her story. And she immediately wanted to help her, this truck driver. So they planned multiple rescue attempts, Van and the driver, but each one failed for one reason or another. The driver and 5 other farm truck drivers all finally worked together in 2012, 20 years after Van was kidnapped, and created the most elaborate plan to get her back to Hanoi.
This reminds me of Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, yeah.
When they finally, Ugh.
Yes. So they loaded one of the 5 trucks with pigs in pig cages, and they put her in with the pigs, like hidden with the pigs. The other 4 trucks drove around the truck with the pigs, acting as blockades. After 43 miles in the trucks, one of the drivers hired a cab for Van. Van passed out. She was so tired, and she'd been in with the pigs, and she was just, like, overwhelmed. She, like, passed out. And about 60 miles further, all of the drivers stayed with her to act as guards. The guards and the cab driver dropped her off another hour closer, so they're taking it like 60 miles at a time. And then she and the original Vietnamese woman, truck driver, spent the next 6 months begging for food and living on the streets, trying to make it back to Hanoi. They met, by chance, a cab driver who decided to take them closer to the border for free. Like, the cab driver just, like, related to them.
Yeah.
The Vietnamese woman gave Van the little money that she had left, and they reached Hanoi. And she told Van that if her family had died or would not accept her after the life she led, which is horrible, that she could live with her, and they would go and start a new life together.
Aww.
So she could not find her childhood home. She looked everywhere, and she couldn't quite remember. But she started asking people on the street. Finally, she ran into someone who asked, and it happened to be her uncle, which is just like the weirdest thing. And they didn't recognize each other at first because she was now a woman. What made him recognize her was she kept asking for her mother's name, and this was her mother's brother. So she was 16 when she went missing, and now she was 37. So of course she'd appear different. Her family was in disbelief. They still lived. They didn't live in the same home, but they lived in Hanoi. And they had long before erased her name from their family book, which this is interesting. You have a family record book, like at a police station, and if someone goes missing or like is kicked out of your family for whatever reason, you go and erase their name from the book so they never existed. So
Jesus.
They erased her name from the family book, but immediately, like the day they found Van, they took her to the police station and added her name back into the book, which is like,
I know.
Obviously, there is work to be done in Vietnam, and the women who do return suffer from extreme PTSD and psychological trauma. If you want to help, you can support the Blue Dragons Children's Foundation, which isn't just for children, but that's what it's called. It's an organization that started in Hanoi, and it cares for homeless children, educates high-risk children, and supports trafficking survivors. But the Blue Dragon does something interesting. It also goes into brothels and homes in China. It sneaks in, and it re-kidnaps the girls. They have elaborate, almost like spy missions where they're not paying the ransom.
Yeah.
They're getting the girls back for free. And they also then provide legal advocacy for the women after they kidnap them back.
Wow.
So you can learn more about this and help end Vietnam's trafficking by visiting bluedragon.org.
That's amazing.
Isn't that like a terrible story? It was very long, but...
So you just reminded me, I'm going to spoil one thing from the podcast. So if you plan on listening to Sold in America and you don't want me to spoil something, skip ahead a little bit.
Yep, skip ahead.
So one thing they talk about that they're doing in Kentucky. So Kentucky is like drug capital of America, which I didn't know. Drugs and sex trafficking go hand in hand, like even in your story.
Well, absolutely. And it's all profit.
Yeah. They, drug them to kidnap them, and then a lot of times they turn them into addicts because that keeps the dependency. Yeah. And then you it's like an invisible leash that you have on your slave, essentially.
It's sad.
But one thing this doctor started in Kentucky, and now she's actually teaching classes at med school, she had this, like, teen who would come in, and she didn't realize until she had treated her a couple of times for different STDs that she was likely a victim of sex trafficking, and she was missing it. So now, because she's like, okay, the only person besides their pimp who's alone with them is a doctor. Like, we're the only people in their lives.
Because they don't allow them to be with anyone else.
Yeah.
They, like, keep them on a tight leash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, we're the only other person they might ever come across who's alone in a room with them.
That made me feel overwhelmed for some reason.
So they're, like, trying to learn what questions to ask and trying to find red flags. So if they see these girls, they can save them from sex trafficking. Like, it's just... And how have we never thought of this? It's amazing.
Being a doctor is just not in my future. I think I'm past that, but I would love to be that.
Right.
Like some kind of, I don't know.
It's just pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. My story's so different than yours.
Oh, well, I'm interested.
Okay, I'm going to go grab my beer.
Yeah, let's grab another beer. Also, we're going to pause for an advertisement. We keep forgetting to announce them.
Here's an ad coming at you right now. Okay.
And we hope you like that ad. Yeah. If it was not relevant, sorry, thanks for supporting us.
Someone messaged us after we did that, and they were like, what did they say? My ad was for, like, it was something sexual and, like, weird.
Like
or, like,
yeah,
I think it was for erectile dysfunction or something.
Also, before we get into your story, I want to go ahead and do a shout-out to our new patrons.
Okay.
So I don't forget at the end, because I should never forget you guys. So our new patrons are Erica Kelly, Susan Lee, and Chloe Rose.
And... Excuse me, sorry.
Was that what you were waiting? Or you have something to say?
You'll have your cards by this episode, but as we're recording, I'm getting your cards out this weekend.
Yeah. So thank you guys. You guys all get early releases, and then also a couple of you are in our tier to get an extra episode, which we just recorded one, so we hope you love our December exclusive.
With a special guest.
Special guest. So, yeah, thanks so much, Patreon new members. We love you. Yeah. Okay, what's our beer?
Okay, I picked, it's a beer by Southern Tier Brewing Co., which you said was in Oregon, right?
No, this one's not in Oregon. Oh. This one's in New York, I think.
Lakewood, New York.
But they have breweries all over, so they have a brewery in downtown Cleveland. And every time I go to Cleveland for work, I go to their brewery.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this beer is called Old Man Winter, because we're doing seasonal ones, and I just like the name. It's
Man Winter.
It's a very simple label, but
yeah, all their labels look the same. They're just different color with the word.
Oh.
Which is efficient.
It just says Winter Ale. Oh, I thought it said expired. It says date of birth, 10/23/19.
Aw, he's a baby.
This was just born.
That's almost Evan's birthday.
It doesn't...
10/24.
Jesus Christ. Old Man Winter. Ooh, I like that.
I like it too.
That's really good. I could use some more Old Man Winters.
That is good. You know, it doesn't taste Christmassy to me, but it does taste wintry to me. Mm-hmm. So it's like an amber color, or like a kind of a rich caramel color, almost maple looking. And it's bitter. It almost tastes hoppy, but it's not.
Yeah. It's not Christmassy in the way, like, there's no...
spices.
Yeah, but it's good. I like it. Mm. It's a very drinkable beer, but very flavorful.
But it's rich.
Yeah. That's good.
I like that a lot. Okay.
Okay.
Yay, I told my story. Now I can sit and listen to one.
Yay. Okay. So my missing person survivor, I need to give a trigger warning.
Okay.
There is sexual assault, rape, and very strong violence in my case.
I probably should have given a trigger warning for mine. I'm really sorry, guys. Oops.
Well, we talked about that it was going to be sex trafficking before you started.
Oh, true.
So that was, I'm only going to go into as much detail as I have to tell you the story. So I'm going to tell you the story of Colleen Stan, also known as the Girl in the Box.
I do not know this, but the Girl in the Box just creeped me out.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. It made me think of the Chokey from Matilda.
I got my niece Matilda for Christmas. She's 7 and she's never read it. So my heart, she's going to love it.
It's my favorite.
Yes.
I've mentioned before, I think I have a tattoo of Matilda on my arm. Like, I brought the book into the tattoo shop and
I got her that book, the one with the original art on it.
I have it on my arm.
Oh.
Okay. So my sources, All That's Interesting, which we love.
Yeah, we love that place. Serious, sponsor us or we'll sponsor you.
Yes. 2 articles, one by Kara Goldfarb and the other by Gina DeMoro. And then Ranker, an article by Kat McAuliffe.
We also love Ranker.
Yes. And then I watched an interview with Colleen on Inside Edition where she was talking, because we know she survived. CrimeInvestigation.com, an article by April Jones. And then I looked a little bit at Wikipedia.
Wow. I don't know if I know this.
So it's kind of a hometown for you, Sarah. What? Close, at least. The story starts in Eugene, Oregon.
What?
Yeah.
She's from Eugene?
Mm-hmm.
How do I not know this?
She's from Eugene.
Oh, Eugene. Also, Christian went to school in Eugene.
Oh, yeah.
And Christian is one of our listeners, and he sent me a University of Oregon ornament that he made.
Also,
for Christmas.
He fucking made a dinosaur T-Rex. Okay, he has an Instagram.
He's so cool.
We'll give a shout out to his Instagram. You guys should check it out.
The Periodi Comb. Did we say that right? Or is it the Period Eye Comb?
Periodicomb?
Oh, it might